I have the fabric cut out for the overlocker. It's all there. I've made it a little bit more complicated than maybe some of you beginners will need it to be. But I think you're deserving of a challenge. You've done some awesome things so far. If you've been following the first project and following through, I think you can manage this. So I've included a couple of pockets. So there's a pocket there to go on the side. So this is the front. I've got the overlocker going at an angle. So I've got the front, I've got the top, I've got a pocket for the back. So that goes at the back there. And these are the two sides, and I've got a pocket for the side. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is sew the pocket. Make sure you have them good sides together. So that's one pocket, and that's the pocket that's going to go on the back. I'm going to press that down. Okay, so we've got the pockets. I'm going to press them and then I'm going to attach them to the sides. So here are the pockets all pressed. We sew them on to the side and to the back. And the reason I'm going to do that now is that for two reasons really. One, so I don't forget to put them in later. And two, so that it helps hold them and position them for when I want to have them. So I'm actually only going to do the bottoms of this. And next one. Okay, pockets are done. Right, so that's going to go in the back like that. That's going on the side like that. So what we want to do is we need to get the front piece. So let's grab that. So that's the front piece. This one is the top, like that. And this is the lower front. Okay, so let's sew 1, 2 and 3 stitches together. So I've got the back, the top and the 2 front pieces sewn together. So place, this is the front, place good sides together and then sew along there. And then, so that's the lower front, that's the upper front, that's the top. Okay, so that's the front, the mid, the other fronts, the top, and now the back. So now we've got that all. So now I've got the 2 fronts and I've got the top and I've got the back. I'm going to go and press all these seams to keep them nice and flat before I sew them to the sides. Now somebody kindly suggested that we use safety pins when we're in the project just to hold things together. So I'm going to use safety pins now instead of regular pins to hold the pockets in place. And we're going to start with the fabrics good side together. When I get to the corner, leave the needles in, lift the presser foot, and I need to go at an angle and join that. And what happens is I'm going to join to as far as the edge of this piece goes. So turn the fabric round to an angle. And I'm going to stop just before that stitch. So just before I get to the overlocking seam, and then match that up, and then can you see how the piece of fabric on the top matches the piece underneath together. Okay, so that's one side done, and we're going to do the other side. around. So that's the pocket at the back, and there we are. So there we go. So we're going to line it now. So I have to sew the lining in exactly the same way, and just to be sure that I'm getting everything in the right place, I'm just checking the measurements because I didn't actually label this one. So I think that one is the top, because if I place that there, it matches perfectly with that angle. So that one's there, that one's my top. So I'm going to stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, and then add the sides. So good sides together. Okay, so there's the lining sewn and pressed, and there's the main fabric pressed. So in the main fabric we drew the handle, didn't we? So this is now for the ones of you who want an extra challenge. The ones who don't want to do this, you can pop a strap along there and sew that down, and that will still look as great as this method. But I just want to give the ones of you who want a challenge a bit of a challenge. So let's flip it the right way round, sorry, the wrong way round. There we go. So there's the drawing of the handle, and I'm going to put some stabilizer on there. So a stabilizer, something that keeps it from stretching, losing shape, but it also reinforces it to give it strength. So the old-fashioned word for stabilizer or fusible stabilizer is iron-on interfacing. And if you're like me, you're still working in inches, and you're old money, you still know this as interfacing. But as people are becoming more and more familiar with American terminology, we're calling it stabilizer. So buy it as fusible stabilizer or buy it as iron-on interfacing. Let's press that on. We can still see the blue marking, and then we're going to work with good sides together. So what I'll do now is I'll make sure to put the lining in exactly the same way. So I've got that seam for the front, and I'm going to place the lining in there. Okay, and there I can feel the top. So what I need to do, so just match the corner, got a few frayed threads there, but it doesn't matter because it's all going to be hidden in here very shortly. Safety pin that one, make sure the seams are matching. What's the seams to match up? And then in theory, that one should go pretty straight in. So that's gone pretty much straight in. And there we go. So just pop that last one out in there. And there we go. All right. So now this is going to be a bit awkward because we've got to get this into the sewing machine. And that's why those safety pins will be really handy. So we've got to get this into the sewing machine like that. And like I said before, we are going to stitch around this line. Okay, so that we end up with a nice handle like this. So you've got a big gap there. The closer together your stitching is, the narrower that line will be. So I've done it purposely quite wide. So I think I had about 3 stitches across. If you do 2 stitches, that gap will be closer together. So the closer together you do your stitches, the narrower that gap will be. But it's fine, it sits and it will be fine, it'll look great. So I've got the straight stitch, press foot is up, and just get that in there. Okay, and it doesn't matter where we start, but just eyeball it. So this is a sewing challenge now as well. You do need to sew this. This isn't something you can do on the overlocker. Now if you've got the LS14, keep your stitches to number 9. So now this is where the handle is. I'm going to just do 2 stitches, so I'm going to go really slow. 1, 2. Oh, I did 3. Okay, we'll stick with 3. And then just... and then just stop short of the stitches there and keep it nice and straight. We do not want to cross stitches over. You need to keep a nice steady gap between them. Okay. And then back to the last one, and I'm going to lock the stitches here. Okay, let's pull that out. There we go. So that's the seam sewn there. Now I've got a seam ripper here, and what I'm going to do is get in there, and I'm going to start there so I don't accidentally cut into my handle, and just pierce a tiny hole, a manageable hole. Once I've done that, I can get my scissors. Okay, so go right up to within the stitches, and then we're going to turn. Okay, so if it's narrow like that, just snipping around will be fine. When you get to the corners, make sure you snip right into the corners. Let's take the safety pins out. Okay, so that's the safety pins out. So the first thing you do is pull the fabric round, but let's pull the handle out first before we pull everything out. So I've got a pokey stick here, as I call them. Cover it up, don't worry too much, it's just the handle. So if you do end up with a wider gap, it's no biggie. I'm going to go and press that handle, but before I do that, I'm going to show you what to do. So push everything through that hole, that handle hole that we created, and we've got our insert in there, keeping everything stable and secure. And there we go. So all that remains now is to sew the two linings together at the bottom. So you've caught me sewing this overlocker hem over. I finished it with just the overlocker finish, but I felt the pink overlocking seam just was too garish, to be honest. So what I'm doing now is using the overlocking as a seam finish for the inside. I'm just turning up the overlocking and I'm just sewing along, trying to do it at the same time as talking, and sew along the overlocking to finish the edge off so it looks a little bit neater. So here you go, the finished article. I've added a few lines down there so I can section off a few bits and bobs that come in handy. And the pocket certainly holds the foot pedal in there. And I've just pinned the handle forward so you can have a little peep. But you put your hand in there and you can grab your overlocker comfortably. Brilliant. Have fun, guys.